going on, y'all? It's Big John. Welcome to It's All in the Game. So today I'm going to make the episode that should have been the first episode I ever made when I started this channel. I'm going to tell you all a little bit about myself and why I'm making these videos. And I'm going to ask y'all a favor. I'm going to ask y'all to try to watch it all the way to the end. Because at the beginning, maybe you're thinking to yourself, why is the story some dope fiend convict apply to me? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, once you get to the end of this, you're going to see why this will apply to you and why it should be important to you. So, out here in the streets, they call me Big John. That's all I'm going to give you. Sorry. You don't get the rest unless you know me. So I'm 43 years old. I spent most of my life as a drug user. And in that time, I've done 2 terms in state prison. And I've been in the county jail, many county jails, more times than I can count. All right. So I've learned a lot about the justice system. I've learned a lot about incarceration in that time. And 2 of the main things that I've learned throughout that period is that first and foremost, our system is inherently fucked up, y'all. It is inherently broken. The second thing I've learned is that most people don't really have any understanding of how it works, either the judicial process or the penal system in general. So I'm going to tell you some more about that too and why that relates to you. So the United States has more people locked up than any country on earth. Let that sink in for a minute, all right? Maybe you're thinking, geographically we're a pretty big country. What are we, like 3rd or 4th biggest country in the world? Well, think of it this way. Communist China, I'm going to say the word one more time since people kind of get bent out of shape behind communism in America. Communist China, repressive communist China, there I've said it 3 times, has a population of 1.3 billion people. In China right now, there's 1.5 million people locked up. Here in the United States, home of the free, we've got just over 300 million people in our population. But our prison population is almost 1 million people more than China. And this system is pretty much completely propped up by the poor. I'm not just talking about inner city ghetto poor, although they get hit the hardest by this, but this can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a city or if you're a country. If you're not part of the upper class of where you live, there is a very good chance that at some point in your life you're going to get victimized by this system. And victimized is absolutely the right term to use. So generally speaking, folks who haven't been involved in the system, and honestly a lot of people who have been involved in it still think of it this way, see the system as something that exists for law and order. Now when I'm talking about the system, I'm talking about the whole system. I'm talking about the police and the sheriff's deputies who drive around, your community. I'm talking about the lawyers and judges in the courthouse, that whole court process, due process they like to call it. I'm talking about the county jails. I'm talking about the penitentiaries in our country, state and federal penitentiaries, all of it. So generally people think that system exists to provide balance, to provide law and order. If someone breaks a law and they need to pay for it or they need to be rehabilitated, that's what that system exists for. That is certainly not the main function of the criminal justice system in America today. All right. Today's criminal justice system serves one very giant purpose in America, and that is profit. Now, of course, you're sitting here thinking, look at this dope fiend convict telling me, oh, they're just locking us up to make money off us. That's true. Lots of people are going to say that, but I'm not saying it in some very general term. Right? I'm going to tell you all exactly what I'm talking about. On a local level, cities generate huge revenue from their police forces. Speeding tickets, citations, fines, and costs. These people could not have their jobs if they weren't generating this kind of revenue from these income sources, all right? But on a state level, prisons provide a gigantic low-cost workforce for the state. And it works in a couple different ways. Almost every state prison system has factory systems that operate inside their prison system where prisoners can go to work making things like license plates and law enforcement uniforms for police and corrections officers, making the things people generally think of prisoners making. And they're usually doing that for, pennies an hour, maybe 20, 30 cents an hour, 15 cents an hour. But a much, much larger way that states profit off of prisoners is contracting the people incarcerated in the state's jails and prisons out to private companies. And they can do this for next to no money. I bet you all didn't know this, but when the 13th Amendment outlawed slavery in America, it left a provision for people who are incarcerated. Slavery and indentured servitude is still absolutely legal in America if you're serving time for a felony under the Constitution. That's absolutely true, and it's absolutely something that is still taken advantage of by states all over the country. Right here in New Orleans recently, we made the news when all the city's garbage truck drivers went on strike because they didn't think they were getting the proper safety equipment they needed to keep them safe from the coronavirus. So they all went on strike, and the city fired them all right, and they replaced them all with prisoners. Now those garbage truck workers, it turned out, were getting paid something like $12 an hour. They're paying these prisoners like $1.10 an hour to drive those garbage trucks right now. And you better believe that the state is charging them probably at least $8, $9, $10 an hour. So the city is saving a bunch of money, paying the state less, and the state is making a ton of money on the backs of these people that they can pay next to nothing to do jobs that should be taken by our population's workforce. But the real major leagues, like the fucking World Cup of profiteering off of prisoners, happens in the private sector. Now I'm talking about private prisons. So we literally have corporations that are building prisons in states all over our country, and then they go and sign a contract with this state. The state guarantees they're going to keep these prisons full. Beyond that, there are all kinds of companies. The canteen services, where people order their canteen, their commissary from. Video visitation, more and more now. If somebody's locked up, they're just going to go to a computer monitor in their housing unit and pick up a phone receiver and talk to their people on that. And the people can sit back at home with their little smartphone and do a visit like that. It's all done at a profit. Of course, the phone companies have been in jails for years and years. They charge, ridiculous rates, $2, $3 a minute often for people to talk to their loved ones on those phones. The interstate transport companies. So these are the people, if you're in one state and you have a warrant, unless it's for like murder or some federal crime, the people that are going to take you back to the state that issued that warrant is one of these interstate transport companies. And what they are is they are a company that's just got vans driving all over the country, and they'll have shifts. They'll have two dudes in there driving, strapped up with their guns and their vests on, driving 24 hours a day, just taking turns at the wheel and just having, picking people up and dropping people off and driving them all over the country. It's a miserable experience. I've never been in one, but I've heard lots of stories. There's all kinds of ways that prisoners and that incarcerating people are providing huge amounts of profit in our country. And right now, that is the primary focus. There is no way that we should have the highest number of prisoners in the world. Today, our jails are primarily filled up with people who are waiting for trial, who haven't even been convicted of a crime. They can't pay bail. I did a whole other video on this, y'all. But they're there for things like public intoxication, disorderly conduct, minor drunken driving, stuff like that. So I really set this channel up to help educate the public at large about the real reasons that people are being locked up in our country. But even more so, I set it up so I could help educate people about how the system works. So if you get caught up in that system, maybe those police start questioning you, they come and talk to you about something you might know about. Maybe these lawyers start coming and talking to you, offering you some kind of plea bargain. You're going to recognize that, and you're going to say, hey man, I remember Big John talking about this shit. And maybe you're going to be a little bit more well-equipped to deal with that situation. So this is the part where I'm going to tell you why this should apply to you. Maybe you're thinking, all right, people are making money off all kinds of fucked up shit in our country. We have big pharmaceutical industries. We have big tobacco industries. Who cares if they're making money off prisoners? Okay, fair enough. But if you've ever gone and watched a football game on a Sunday afternoon with your friends, had a couple beers, drove home, look, y'all, in most states in our country, 0.06 is the legal limit right now. That's like 2 beers over the course of a couple of hours is 0.06. That's like next to nothing. If you got a friend with a prescription for Xanax, that maybe you take 1 Xanax a month to help you sleep when you really just can't sleep. You get caught driving home with those Xanax, this could be you, let me tell you. If you end up in an argument with somebody has road rage, you pull over arguing with them. Maybe it's your neighbor. If somebody sees y'all arguing, calls the police on you. The jails, the prisons are filled up with people like this. I could tell you so many stories. I don't want to keep y'all here for 40 minutes, for an hour, but I could tell you so many stories of people locked up for dumb little shit. This is no joke. This could apply to anybody out there. And even if it never applies to you, if you never get caught up in it, I almost guarantee you at this point in American life, you're going to know somebody that has. And you're going to be better off for having this knowledge. Maybe you can point them in this direction, all right? So that's my hope with this channel. I'd like to help people see the system for what it is and maybe help them be able to navigate it a little better if they find themselves in it. And my real hope for this channel is maybe if we get this information to enough people, maybe we can start affecting change. If y'all interested in that kind of stuff, check out some of the other videos on my channel, alright? And if you ever do find yourself in that situation, you know what you're going to say? You're going to say, Big John told you so. Alright, I'm telling you right now. So y'all, take care of yourselves. Keep yourselves safe out there. Keep your loved ones safe. If you like this content, click that like button and click that subscribe button, y'all. I don't want you missing anything. Big John told you so. It's all in the game.